HermitCraft Season 10 live for the evening of Saturday, May 10th, 2025. Do, 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 do. Verifying that the stream has gone live is what we're doing now. Okay, it looks like the stream has gone live, so we will press pause anyhow. Pop out the chat. Pop out the chat. Edit video. Edit video. Click customization live reactions and then turn down the slow mode. Da 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 da. And the stream is set up. Well, there we go. I mean, partially set up anyway. Do we have the setting up now sign up? No. That's how you can tell the stream's not set up. We don't even have the setting up now sign up. Welcome, Iconic Anemone. See if we're live on Twitch yet. Twitch is giving me this weird connecting to chat error. That's inspiring. Twitch chat might just be down tonight. Okay, that's great. Does it work from my phone? It would be nice to be able to see the Twitch chat. Worst case, I guess we can just set Twitch chat to emote only in case it does start suddenly working. Okay, stream manager, manage my live stream. Okay, bizarrely, I can see the Twitch chat on my phone, but not on the computer. Okay. Welcome, Hexdawn, Envy Andy, Redmond Kitten, Zevin, Simply Lost 33, Masho Trasho, Yazzie Wolf. Yeah, Twitch chat, for some reason, not seem to be firing on any cylinders. If I try sending a message, it won't send, so I can't pin the what we're reading link. Fantastic. Which is really helpful when we're reading a novel. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. No, I have refreshed. I have refreshed it. I could try quitting Chrome entirely, which at this point, why not? Close all windows. Oh yeah, because I had a million things perfectly set up, including the book we're reading and all the chats. Well, too late. I already did it. Okay. That did bring back the Twitch chat, at least. I'd be really annoyed if I had to now reset up everything again. And it didn't work. So that's something. Pop out the chat. We're going to be reading Frankenstein chapter 6 and maybe more tonight, depending on how much time we have. Okay, so we've got the what we're reading link. Pin the message. So we'll get you caught up. We're going to do a little overview of what we've already read and stuff like that once we're sure we're all set up. Okay. Let's make sure we got the Discord open. Welcome, Centauratron. Okay. Well, good luck on getting that assignment grade updated there, Yazzie Wolf. Okay. So I think we are basically all set, except for the fact that I need to reopen the book. I had it right where I wanted it. And thanks to this Chrome crash, that is no longer the case. Okay. So we now have Chrome reopened. What else do we have to do? We have to remind people our stream schedule. You can find our streams at joehills.net/soon. We got to remind people about the Discord. If you hear me talking about the Discord chat is for folks who are part of my Patreon community. $5 a month gets you into the Discord to chat. $10 a month gets you on the Minecraft servers. Okay, and then also, while we're reading, any tips that roll in will be acknowledged at logical breaks in the text. Not going to interrupt the middle of a sentence for them. Probably not even the middle of a paragraph. If I've already screwed up a paragraph and I'm getting flustered, though, I might be like, oh, you know what? Okay, let's take a second to reset. So if you're like, how come you read one tip in the middle of a thing but not mine? That's why. That's why. There is a madness to the method, don't worry. And it's not all Vicky F's. The possessive case is always a problem for names that end with sounds like F or S. The Hills is another one. Okay. So, here's what we are doing. We need to gather a ton of string so we can cover all the glass that's going to go on the roof. This thing is going to have about, doing the quick mental math, 6.5 stacks worth of glass on top of it on the roof where it snows. So that means we need about 6.5 stacks of string. Wait, did I say stacks? Sorry, 6.5 shulkers. Yes, so we need 6.5 shulkers worth of string. We don't necessarily need all of it today, but we are going to go collect a lot of that from Corralis's. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to swing all the way over to Corralis's Triple Spider Farm. Howdy, Mouse Cake. Good morning to you. Happy Saturday evening. Hello, Ann Rose. We are on our way to Corralis's Spider Farm so that we can harvest the string from those little spiders. And so here's a quick recap of Frankenstein so far. Our hero, Captain Robert Walton, wrote 4 letters to his sister at the beginning of the book, talking about how he's going on a voyage to try and find this mysterious land in the Northwest Passage. And in the process, he saw like an 8-foot-tall guy on a bobsled being pulled by dogs, or a dog sled being pulled by bobs, in the Arctic on the ice from his ship. And then a little after that, an iceberg drifted nearby that had a smaller man on a dog sled with no dogs left. All the dogs are dead. And it's just this guy on this broken sled. And he pulls him on board the ship, helps him recover from his, infirmities, and then is told, oh boy, have I got a story for you about how not to pursue your dreams to the point of destroying everything you know and love. And Robert Walton's like, ooh, do tell me this story. And so the man telling that story is our pal Vicky F, a.k.a. Victor Frankenstein, who has so far regaled us with tales of his being self-educated on his dad's estate, which is basically a house because his dad kind of semi-retired, I think to Italy. Yeah, Genoa. That's in Italy, I think. And now he's gone to Ingolstadt, which is like a real university. And he's got to, try to make his way in the world despite being self-educated. And then he got distracted by trying to make a monster in an attic. And the guy he got obsessed with making this 8-foot-tall human that would live. He would make life from nothing. And this seemed like a good idea at the time. But the thing came alive at 1 in the morning, and he freaked out, and he ran away. And then he ran into his childhood friend Clerval in the street, who had just arrived at Ingolstadt to begin his own studies. And Clerval's like, what up, my dude? You seem a little bit stressed. And then Frankenstein, passed out for, 6 weeks with, in a delirious fever or whatever. And he's finally coming out of the fever, and Clerval is like, dude, you gotta write your family. I have been covering for you this whole time, but they think it's a little weird. They haven't gotten any messages in your hand. I haven't told them how bad things have gotten here, but, you gotta reach out to them. And so, Chapter 6 begins with Clerval playing the role of Cliff from Cheers. Chapter 6 of Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, by Mary Shelley. Clerval then put the following letter into my hands. It was from my very own Elizabeth. My dearest cousin, you have been ill, very ill, and even the constant letters of dear kind Henry are not sufficient to reassure me on your account. You are forbidden to write, to hold a pen, yet one word from you, dear Victor, is necessary to calm our apprehensions. Okay, here's the thing, you guys. We are doing this live. I have not pre-rehearsed this. I have not pre-done the voices. I think that might be a little bit too shrill. Let's try to dial it back. Let's do more of a... My dearest cousin, you have been ill, very ill, and even the constant letters of dear kind Henry are not sufficient to reassure me on your account. You are forbidden to write, to hold a pen, yet one word from you, dear Victor, is necessary to calm our apprehensions. For a long time, I have thought that each post would bring this line, and my persuasion have restrained my uncle from undertaking a journey to Ingolstadt. I have prevented his encountering the inconveniences and, perhaps, dangers of so long a journey. Yet, how often have I regretted not being able to perform it myself? I figure to myself that the task of attending on your sickbed has devolved on some mercenary old nurse, who could never guess your wishes nor minister to them with the care and affection of your poor cousin. Yet, this is over now. Clerval writes that you indeed are getting better. I eagerly hope that you will confirm his intelligence soon in your own handwriting. Get well and return to us. You will find a happy, cheerful home and friends who love you dearly. Your father's health is vigorous, and he asks but to see you. But to be assured that you are well, and not a care will ever cloud his benevolent countenance. How pleased you would be to remark the improvement of our Ernest. He is now 16 and full of activity and spirit. He is desirous to be a true Swiss and to enter into the foreign service, but we cannot part with him, at least until his elder brother returns to us. My uncle is not pleased with the idea of a military career in a distant country, but Ernest never had your powers of application. He looks upon study as an odious fetter. His time is spent in the open air, climbing the hills or rowing on the lake. I fear he will become an idler unless we yield the point and permit him to enter on the profession which he has selected. Little alteration, except the growth of our dear children, has taken place since you left us. The blue lake and snow-clad mountains, they never change, and I think our placid home and our contented hearts are regulated by these same immutable laws. My trifling occupations take up my time and amuse me, and I am rewarded for any exertions by seeing none but happy, kind faces around me. Since you left us, but one change has taken place in our little household. Do you remember on what occasion Justine Moritz entered our family? Presumably you do not, so I will relate her history. Therefore, in a few words. Madame Moritz, her mother, was a widow with 4 children, of whom Justine was the third. This girl had always been the favorite of her father, but through a strange perversity, her mother could not endure her, and after the death of M. Moritz, treated her very ill. My aunt observed this, and when Justine was 12 years of age, prevailed on her mother to allow her to live at our house. The republican institutions of our country have produced simpler and happier manners than those which prevail in the great monarchies that surround it. Hence, there is less distinction between the several classes of its inhabitants, and the lower orders being neither so poor nor so despised. Their manners are more refined and moral. A servant in Geneva does not mean the same thing as a servant in France and England. Justine, thus received in our family, learned the duties of a servant, a condition which, in our fortunate country, does not include the idea of ignorance and a sacrifice of the dignity of a human being. Justine, you may remember, was a great favorite of yours, and I recollect you once remarked that if you were in an ill humor, one glance from Justine could dissipate it. For the same reason that Aristo gives concerning the beauty of Angelica. She looked so frank-hearted and happy. My aunt conceived a great attachment for her, by which she was induced to give her education superior to which she first attended. This benefit was fully repaid. Justine was the most grateful little creature in the world. I do not mean that she made any professions. I never heard one pass her lips. But you could see by her eyes that she almost adored her protectress. Although her disposition was gay and in many respects inconsiderate, yet she paid the greatest attention to every gesture of my aunt. She thought her the model of all excellence, and endeavored to imitate her phraseology and manners, so that even now she often reminds me of her. When my dearest aunt died, everyone was too much occupied with their own grief to notice poor Justine, who had attended her during her illness with the most anxious affection. Poor Justine was very ill, but other trials were reserved for her. One by one, her brothers and her sister had died, and her mother, with the exception of a neglected daughter, was left childless. The conscience of the woman was troubled. She began to think that the deaths of her favorites was a judgment from heaven to chastise her partiality. She was a Roman Catholic, and I believe her confessor confirmed the idea which she had conceived. Accordingly, a few months after your departure for Ingolstadt, Justine was called home by her repentant mother. Poor girl. She wept when she quitted our house. She was much altered since the death of my aunt. Grief had given softness and a winning mildness to her manners, which had before been remarkable for vivacity. Nor was her residence at her mother's house of a nature to restore her gaiety. The poor woman was very vacillating in her repentance. She sometimes begged Justine to forgive her unkindness, but much oftener accused her of having caused the deaths of her brothers and sister. Perpetual fretting at length threw Madame Moritz into a decline, which at first increased her irritability, but she is now at peace forever. She died on the first approach of cold weather, at the beginning of the last winter. Justine has just returned to us, and I assure you I love her tenderly. She is very clever and gentle and extremely pretty. As I mentioned before, her mien and her expression continually remind me of my dear aunt. I must also say a few words to you, my dear cousin, of darling William. I wish you could see him. He is very tall of his age, with sweet laughing blue eyes, dark eyelashes, and coiling hair. When he smiles, 2 little dimples appear on each cheek, which are rosy with health. He has already had 1 or 2 little wives, but Louisa Byron is his favorite, a pretty little girl, 5 years of age. Now, dear Victor, I dare say you wish to be indulged in a little gossip concerning the good people of Geneva. The pretty Miss Mansfield has already received the congratulatory visits on her approaching marriage with a young Englishman, John Melbourne, Esquire. Her ugly sister, Manon, married M. Duvallard, the rich banker, last autumn. Your favorite schoolfellow, Louis Manoir? He has suffered several misfortunes since the departure of Clerval from Geneva, but he has already recovered his spirits and is reported to be on the point of marrying a lively, pretty Frenchwoman, Madame Tavernier. She is a widow and much older than Manoir, but she is very much admired and a favorite with everybody. I have written myself into better spirits, dear cousin, but My anxiety returns upon me as I conclude. Right. Dearest Victor, one line, one word will be a blessing to us. 10,000 thanks to Henry for his kindness, his affection, and his many letters. We are sincerely grateful. Adieu. My cousin, take care of yourself, and I entreat you. Right. Elizabeth Lavenza. So that was the end of that first letter in this chapter. We're going to take a quick break here so I can greet all the people that came in. Welcome, Gorin1818. I hope you and Kelly are having a fantastic time down there out Florida way. Welcome, Melody726, first-time chatter, who says, glad Twitch knows what I like since I was struggling to find a stream to listen to. Welcome, Talren. Welcome, Wildlife. Welcome, Glass Sand Pain, Diet Ginger Ale, Kai Farem, Mini Zoe Kens, Simply Lost. Welcome, Burning Couch. Welcome, Ava and Terry Broom. Hey, we got a tip rolling in from Terry Broom as well, who says, so good, thank you for this, and tips 25. The tip says as well, love this so much, my first Joe Hills reading. Well, thank you for making this possible, Terry. That 25 gets us $5 past our next face camera expansion milestone. Please direct your attention to the lower left, because we're about to expand Joe. That now puts us $15 away from the next face camera expansion milestone and the entrance of the Jost. Burning Couch says this is a great stream idea. I love it. Yeah, we need 6.5 shulkers worth of string. Is it possible for me to get that string there? I want that string. We need all the string. Okay, it turns out that swimming up next to the spiders was maybe not my best decision ever. I do have additional carrots, and I do have this little Totem of Undying. But yeah. Yeah, we need significantly more string than we have right now. And, okay, I'm looking at this as well, and I'm realizing that there is nothing... That's why the string was backing up, because these hoppers in the center here have become clogged with spider eyes. We need to pull the spider eyes out every so often as well here. Why are there villager heads instead of spider eyes there? That's... Okay, well, we see what happened there at least. So, we are going to go ahead and slay the spiders. We're going to take these additional spider eyes out. And we're going to feed those into the extra spider chests that I hid back here. Oh my gosh. Are these actually all full already? Wow, okay. I know you can feed the spider eyes to the armadillos now, so I was saving these for Ren. We're not just going to toss them. That is almost entirely full of spider eyes. Luckily, these ones are open. Okay, so that's something at least. So we have almost a row of string there. Okay. Mailman Dave says, call your mother! 19th century edition. Okay. So what continues in this chapter? Yeah, chapter 6, I believe we are on. Oh, wait, did I post the tipping link? I did, yes. So as this chapter continues, Frankenstein actually writes back. Woo! So let's go ahead. We're going to switch voices as we switch back to Victor here. Geneva, March 18th, 17... Dear Elizabeth, I exclaimed when I had read her letter. I will write instantly and relieve them from the anxiety they must feel. I wrote, and this exertion greatly fatigued me, but my convalescence had commenced and proceeded regularly. In another fortnight, I was able to leave my chamber. One of my first duties on my recovery was to introduce Clerval to the several professors of the university. In doing this, I underwent a kind of rough usage, ill befitting the wounds that my mind had sustained. Ever since the fatal night, the end of my labors, and the beginning of my misfortunes, I had conceived of a violent antipathy even to the name of natural philosophy. When I was otherwise quite restored to health, the sight of a chemical instrument would renew all the agony of my nervous symptoms. Henry saw this, and had removed all my apparatus from my view. He had also changed my apartment, for he perceived that I had acquired a dislike for the room which had previously been my laboratory. But these cares of Clerval were made of no avail when I visited the professors. M. Waldman inflicted the torture when he praised, with kindness and warmth, the astonishing progress I had made in the sciences. He soon perceived that I disliked the subject, but not guessing the real cause, he attributed my feelings to modesty, and changed my subject from my improvement of it to the science itself, with a desire, as I evidently saw, of drawing me out. What could I do? He meant to please, and tormented me. I felt as if he had placed carefully, one by one, in my view, those instruments which were to be afterwards used in putting me to a slow and cruel death. I writhed under his words, yet dared not exhibit the pain I felt. Clerval, whose eyes and feelings were always quick in discerning the sensations of others, declined the subject, alleging, in excuse, his total ignorance, and the conversation took a more general turn. I thanked my friend from my heart, but I did not speak. I saw plainly that he was surprised, but he never attempted to draw my secret from me, and although I loved him with a mixture of affection and reverence that knew no bounds, yet I could never persuade myself to confide in him that event which so often was present to my recollection, but which I feared the detail to another would only impress more deeply. M. Kremp was not equally docile, and in my condition at that time of almost insupportable sensitiveness, his harsh, blunt econiums? Hold on, this is a word I don't know. This is a word I feel like I should know. Let's check the OED. Or, well, whatever. Merriam-Webster's fine. Glowing and warmly enthusiastic praise.
Encomia. Encomium.
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 Encomium. Encomium. His harsh, blunt encomiums gave me even more pain than the benevolent approbation of M. Waldman. The fellow, cried he. Why, M. Clerval, I assure you he has outstripped us all. Aye, stare if you please, but it is never... Oh, wait, I forgot to do the voice for M. Kremp. Hold on. Damn, fella. Why, M. Clerval, I assure you he has outstripped us all. I stare if you please, but it is nevertheless true. A youngster who, but a few years ago, believed in Cornelius Agrippa as firmly as the gospel, has now set himself at the head of the university. And if he is not soon pulled down, we shall all be out of countenance. Aye, continued he, observing my face expressive of suffering. M. Frankenstein is modest, an excellent quality young man. A young man should be diffident of themselves, you know, M. Clerval. I was myself when young, but that wears out in a very short time. M. Crimp. I'm okay. Am I reading this wrong? Is M how Mary Shelley is abbreviating Mr.? There's no way that every single one of these people's first name starts with an M, especially now that he's said M. Clerval and M. Frankenstein. Oh, it's Monsieur. Monsieur. Monsieur Crimp. Monsieur Clerval. Monsieur Frankenstein. Okay. Since we're already derailed, real quick, let's go ahead and say thanks to Imperial Commissar. I don't know why I did a little drum thing when I don't have a little drum. I've got a little fan. I can't hold the fan and drum on it at the same time. That's fine. Hold on. Box. From Imperial Commissar and Lady Meow 77, wishing you a wonderful week. And thanks for all of the entertainment! So thank you very much to Imperial Commissar and Lady Meow 77. Thank you so much for tipping 50. The first 15 gets us one face camera expansion milestone. 35 gets you another. And then we have 15 toward the one after that. So let's see. I can do math. Yeah, there we go. So y'all have seen that money go straight to my head with each... I was going to say, with each Frankenstein milestone I hit. With Frankenstein milestone. With each... Y'all have seen that money go straight to my head. With each face cam... Yeah, we're going to start having Frankenstein expansions. Face camera expansion milestone we hit. You've seen that money go straight to my head. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life are here to remind me that humanity was my business. As they begin pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the joust. Ba 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 ba. Lowering the opacity now to 90%. Thank you very much to Imperial Commissar and Lady Meow 77. Real quick, let me just brainstorm what a Frankenstein expansion would look like. Just as a point of order. Okay, so if we were to do something like this, maybe? And then, numero dos, even larger joust, fire bad, lowering the opacity out to 80%. Dee. And that puts us $5 away from the next face camera Frankenstein expansion. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Oh. When I tried to copy and paste that, I got the word from before, econiums. Okay, let's get the actual tip. This is going to kill the VOD. Reconnection successful. Okay. So, we lost the internet briefly, like it flickered. There's been a lot of storms here lately. The ISP has sent me emails. They know stuff is messed up. They're working on it. So I'm just doing my best to power through because it's hard to predict. They're replacing a bunch of equipment. There's problems upstream. Resetting my router will only get us so far. But it looks like we're back. So as long as it's just like brief half-second flickers like that, we're going to be okay. Especially because I'm going to be gone next Saturday. I want to really try and get as much done as we can today. So where was I? Okay. We were $15 away from the next Frankenstein expansion milestone. Hey, Badger, do you see that thing? Okay. So I have unmuted now, Badger. Thank you. So, what were we doing? We are... Yeah, we're going to continue. Monsieur Krempe had now commenced a eulogy on himself, which happily turned the conversation from a subject that was so annoying to me. Clerval had never sympathized in my tastes for natural science, and his literary pursuits differed wholly from those which had occupied me. He came to the university with the design of making himself complete master of the Oriental languages, and thus he should open a field for the plan of life he had marked out for himself. Resolved to pursue no inglorious career, he turned his eyes toward the east as affording scope for his spirit of enterprise. The Persian, Arabic, and Sanskrit languages engaged his attention, and I was easily induced to enter on the same studies. Idleness had ever become irksome to me, and now that I wished to fly from reflection and hated my former studies, I felt great relief in being the fellow pupil with my friend, and found not only instruction, but consolation in these works. I did not, like him, attempt a critical knowledge of these dialects, for I did not contemplate making any other use of them than temporary amusement. I read merely to understand their meaning, and they well repaid my labors. Their melancholy is soothing, and their joy elevating, to a degree I never experienced in studying the authors of any other country. When you read their writings, life appears to consist in a warm sun and a garden of roses, in the smiles and frowns of a fair enemy, and the fire that consumes your own heart. How different from the manly and heroical poetry of Greece and Rome. Summer passed away in these occupations, and my return to Geneva was fixed for the latter end of autumn. But being delayed by several accidents, winter and snow arrived, the roads were deemed impassable, and my journey was slowed until the ensuing spring. I felt this delay very bitterly, for I longed to see my native town and my beloved friends. My return had only been delayed so long, from an unwillingness to leave Clerval in a strange place, before he had become acquainted with any of its inhabitants. The winter, however, was spent cheerfully, and although the spring was uncommonly late, when it came, its beauty compensated for its dilatoriness. The month of May had already commenced, and I expected the letter daily, which was to fix the date of my departure, when Henry proposed a pedestrian tour in the environs of Ingolstadt, that I might bid a personal farewell to the country I had so long inhabited. I acceded with pleasure to this proposition. I was fond of exercise, and Clerval had always been my favorite companion in ramble of this nature that I had taken among the scenes of my native country. We passed a fortnight in these preambulations. My health and spirits had long been restored, and they gained additional strength from the salubrious air I breathed, the natural incidents of our progress, and the conversation of my friend. Study had before secluded me from the intercourse of my fellow creatures, and rendered me unsocial. Ugh. But Clerval called forth the better feelings of my heart. He again taught me to love the aspect of nature and the cheerful faces of children. Excellent friend, how sincerely you did love me, and endeavor to elevate my mind until it was on a level with your own. A selfish pursuit had cramped and narrowed me, until your gentleness and affection warmed and opened my senses. I became the same happy creature who, a few years ago, loved and beloved by all, had no sorrow or care. When happy, inanimate nature had the power of bestowing on me the most delightful sensations. A serene sky and verdant fields filled me with ecstasy. The present season was indeed divine. The flowers of spring bloomed in the hedges, while those of summer were already in bud. I was undisturbed by thoughts which during the preceded year had pressed upon me, notwithstanding my endeavors to throw them off with an invincible burden. Henry rejoiced in my gaiety and sincerely sympathized in my feelings. He exerted himself to amuse me, while he expressed the sensations that filled his soul. The resources of his mind on this occasion were truly astonishing. His conversation was full of imagination, and very often in imitation of the Persian and Arabic writers, he invented tales of wonderful fancy and passion. At other times, he repeated my favorite poems, or drew me out into arguments, which he supported with great ingenuity. We returned to our college on a Sunday afternoon. The peasants were dancing, and everyone we met appeared gay and happy. My own spirits were high, and I bounded along with feelings of unbridled joy and hilarity. And thus ends Chapter 6 of Frankenstein, the Modern Prometheus, by Mary Shelley. Alrighty, any thoughts on this chapter so far, y'all? Or, well, now that it's concluded?
Have you posted the reading?
Have I posted the reading? Like, I did. Twitch, we had a problem with Twitch earlier. And, hold on, that's not the reading link. It might have unpinned it when the stream flickered. But it was definitely pinned earlier. Twitch has all sorts of... Twitch has decided that pinned things at the top are its enemy, and it will look for any excuse to remove them now. I don't know when that changed, but it's gotten really bad in the last month or two. Centauratron says, so he was just planning to leave the country with no regard for his creation? No. It's because he didn't want to deal with his creation, he was leaving the country. It was with negative regard for his creation. Not zero regard. It was far from zero on the number line, but it was not positive regard, I'll tell you that. Okay. So, you know, a modern storyteller would probably try to end that chapter with a cliffhanger like, on my return, I found a letter from my father. So it's like, oh, everything was gay and happy and there was a big parade and what a fine time. And then I found the letter. But, like, the thing is, Shelley isn't doing that. To Shelley, the idea that somebody in this situation is happy is the cliffhanger. Like, this cannot stand. We don't need to explain what the turn is. You know it's there. You know it's there. It's on its way. So let's real quick check the filters here and see what's backing up. Yeah. So these are backing up. So we're going to go ahead and pull all these spider eyes out of here. Okay. And we'll put that in there. Crystali says, how much evading one problem can one man do? You know, slaps roof of novel. You can fit so many evasive parentings in this bad boy. Yeah. I wouldn't expect much from Vicky F on that front. Okay, so we're going to toss the spider eyes and the heads in there. And then we're going to continue. We need about 6 shulkers, and we've got about 5/6 of one so far. RZ on X says, I love your reading streams. Thank you. Stare. Yeah, Victor Frankenstein. Simply Lost says, you calling him Vicky F is so funny. I don't know why. That's his name. Is it too familiar? I thought because he was Italian, I should be familiar. I don't know, maybe the culture. But he's from Geneva, and I thought that it was a very... Everybody talks about what an open and welcoming place it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe I'm overstepping.
Yes, that famous Italian place of Geneva.
Oh, apparently Geneva is not in Italy. Oh, I was thinking of Genoa.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It was Swiss. It was written in Italy, though.
Hold on. Let me just real quick. Yes, these are in fact two distinct places. It was a long walk to get there.
It's not that far from each other, to be fair.
Cristalli says, is that why you gave Elizabeth an Italian accent? Okay. So let's continue. Chapter 7 of Frankenstein. Oh, wait, before we do that, we actually have to post the updated reading link. Oh, hold on. Yeah, let me get the updated reading link in there. Welcome, Zoltan Snarf. Welcome, Marin. Welcome, Linksy Raiders. I was just about to update the pinned message at the top of the screen. We are currently reading Chapter 7 of Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley, while we gather 6.5 shulkers worth of string. We need a lot of string for an upcoming project. I am doing a build of Bell Labs Research and Development Campus, which you can find in the What We're Building link I'm just posting now. The main building in that is a 1/4 mile log and about 5/6, or not 5/6. I was gonna say about, wait, what would it be? More than 1/3. About 5/12 of it is glass. 5/12 of the roof is glass, maybe? That's not the right number. Maybe it is. And I need a ton of string to cover all that with, because a lot of snow. So, what we are doing is we are reading Frankenstein. Sinker of the Unsinkable says, hate that his whole face covers the gameplay. Well, if you want, I can stand up, and then my tank top can cover the gameplay. Gotta move the mic stand up, though. Da-da-da-da. Okay. It is a little bit harder to do this now. But yeah, don't worry. Also, the camera gets bigger when people tip, and we hit certain tipping milestones. We're currently $5 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. The Modern Prometheus is the subtitle, or the full title of the book is Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. So, yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so we're just about to start Chapter 7. On my return... sorry, that's the wrong voice. On my return, I found the following letter from my father. My dear Victor, you have probably waited impatiently for a letter to fix the date of your return to us, and I was at first tempted to write only a few lines, merely mentioning the day on which I should expect you. But that would be a cruel kindness, and I dare not do it. What would be your surprise, my son, when you expected a happy and glad welcome, to behold, on the contrary, tears and wretchedness, And how, Victor, can I relate our misfortune? Absence cannot have rendered you callous to our joys and griefs, and how shall I inflict pain on my long absent son? I wish to prepare you for the woeful news. Hold on, we got a great score. Howdy score. But I know it is impossible. Even now, your eye skims over the page to seek the words which are to convey to you the terrible tidings. William is dead. That sweet child whose smiles delighted and warmed my heart, who was so gentle yet so gay. Victor, he is murdered. I will not attempt to console you, but will simply relate the circumstances of the transaction. Last Thursday, May 7th, I, my niece, and your 2 brothers went to walk in Plain Palais. The evening was warm and serene, and we prolonged our walk farther than usual. It was already dusk before we had thought of returning, and then we discovered that William and Ernest, who had gone on before, were not to be found. We accordingly rested on a seat until they should return. Presently, Ernest came and inquired if we had seen his brother. He said that he had been playing with him, that William had run away to hide himself, and that he had vainly sought for him, and afterwards waited a long time, and that he did not return. This account rather alarmed us, and we continued to search for him until night fell, when Elizabeth conjectured that he might have returned to the house. He was not there. We returned again, with torches, for I could not rest, when I thought that my sweet boy had lost himself, and was exposed to all the damps and dews of the night. Elizabeth also suffered extreme anguish. About 5 in the morning I discovered my lovely boy, whom the night before I had seen blooming and active in health, stretched on the grass, livid and motionless. The print of the murderer's finger was on his neck. He was conveyed home, and the anguish that was visible in my countenance betrayed the secret to Elizabeth. She was very earnest to see the corpse. At first, I attempted to prevent her, but she persisted, and, entering the room where it lay, hastily examined the neck of the victim, and clasping her hands exclaimed, "Oh God! I have murdered my darling child!" She fainted, and was restored with extreme difficulty. When she again lived, it was only to weep and sigh. She told me that same evening William had teased her to let him wear a very valuable miniature she possessed of your mother. This picture is gone, and was doubtless the temptation which urged the murderer to the deed. We have no trace of him at present, although our exertions to discover him are unremitted. But they will not restore my beloved William. Come, dearest Victor. You alone can console Elizabeth. She weeps continually, and accuses herself unjustly as the cause of his death. Her words pierce my heart. We are all unhappy, but will not that be an additional motive for you, my son, to return and be our comforter. Your dear mother, alas, Victor, I now say thank God she did not live to witness the cruel, miserable death of her youngest darling. Come, Victor, not brooding thoughts of vengeance upon the assassin, but with feelings of peace and gentleness that will heal instead of festering the wounds of our minds. Enter the house of mourning, my friend, but with kindness and affection for those who love you, and not with hatred for your enemies. Your affectionate and afflicted father, Alphonse Frankenstein. Geneva, May 12th, 17... Okay, I'm gonna move the mic now. I'm gonna fix the mic and get back in frame, because I feel like that would have been better if you could see my face. The person who didn't want to see my face wanted to see the game. Let me fix the mic. I feel like my face was the better sell there, but whatever. You got to see some spiders. You got to see some spiders. I can't do a poll in the Twitch chat because I'm not a Twitch partner or whatever. But I will say thank you very much to Haley for tipping 5. That is going to get us to our next Frankenstein expansion. Here we go. Let's see if we can find where's that button to make this happen, right? Okay, this is a new thing. Grr, fire bad. Ah, that's not in frame. Fire bad. Ah. Oh gosh, this chair's actually gonna snap. I need to replace this chair leg. No, I don't. Ah, it's fire bad. Here we go. It's time to expand Yoast. Oh no, I broke OBS. Hold on. We're still streaming, I think. Here we go. Expand Yoast. D. Lowering the Joe Pasty now to 70%. Okay. Wait, was I muted for all of that? Wait, seriously, was I muted for all of that? Did any of that go through? You heard? Okay. No, okay, they heard. Okay. Well, either way, we're going to kill the Frankenstein filter now. And that puts us now evenly 20 away. Thank you, Haley, for that. That puts us 20 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. Good day, Adam Mansbridge. Welcome, Salt and Pepper. OBS doesn't like fire either. Okay. Cool. I don't know why it muted at the end. Oh, wait. It's because when I clicked something wrong in OBS, it swapped the location of two of the audio feeds. And then it looked like the one was muted that I was talking through, but it was a different one. Okay. It's fine. We have a lot of fun here, Linksy Raiders. I hope you guys had fun on Linksy's stream and that you're enjoying Gestures Broadly, whatever this is, while we try to collect all the material we need for our wild roof project. Okay. So yeah, I try not to interrupt the middle of letters and stuff to read tips. So the chapters are long enough that, like, we will find logical breaks. But yeah, if you tip when I've already started reading again, you might not be thanked until later. So thank you for your patience. Okay. So I'm going to put these two here. Bum. Dang it, that's not... I've got to get a better way of doing this. Okay, so we've got one full shulker. And we need about 6. So we're probably not going to get... Since that took about an hour, we're not going to get all of these tonight, but it's fine. We're making progress. Well, Moogle, welcome. Thank you for lurking or whatever. But, yeah. Okay, so here we go. Next thing. We are going to continue the same chapter we were on. Let me find the window. Okay. What was the voice I was using for Clerval? Was that the Ted Theodore Logan voice? Man, I gotta start keeping notes on this stuff, because since I only do this once a week, for the people who are watching at home on the VODs in a chain, this is gonna seem like I'm bouncing all over the place. I think I did the Ted Theodore Logan voice for Clerval, though. Clerval, who had watched my countenance as I read the letter, was surprised to observe the despair that succeeded the joy I first expressed on receiving news from my friends. I threw the letter on the table and covered my face with my hands.
My dear Frankenstein,
exclaimed Henry when he perceived me weep with bitterness.
Are you always to be unhappy? My dear friend, what has happened?
I motioned him to take up the letter, while I walked up and down the room in the extremest agitation. Tears also gushed from the eyes of Clerval as he read the account of my misfortune.
I can offer you no consolation, my friend. Your disaster is irreparable. What do you intend to do?
To go instantly to Geneva. Come with me, Henry, to order the horses. During our walk, Clerval endeavored to say a few words of consolation, he could only express his heartfelt sympathy.
Poor William! Dear, lovely child. He now sleeps with his angel mother, who that had seen him bright and joyous in his young beauty, but must weep over his untimely loss. To die so miserably, to feel the murderer's grasp, how much more a murdered that could destroy radiant innocence. Poor little fellow. One only consolation have we. His friends mourn and weep, but he is at rest. The pang is over. His sufferings are at an end forever. A sod covers his gentle form, and he knows no pain. He can no longer be a subject for pity. We must reserve that for his miserable survivors.
Clerval spoke thus as we hurried through the streets. The words impressed themselves on my mind, and I remembered them afterwards in solitude. But now, as soon as the horses arrived, I hurried into a cabriolet and bade farewell to my friend. My journey was very melancholy. At first, I wished to hurry on, for I longed to console and sympathize with my loved and sorrowing friends. But when I drew near my native town, I slackened my progress. I could hardly sustain the multitude of feelings that crowded into my mind. I passed through scenes familiar to my youth, but which I had not seen for nearly 6 years. How altered everything might be during that time. One sudden and desolating change had taken place, but 1,000 little circumstances might have by degrees worked other alterations, which, although they were done more tranquilly, might not be the less decisive. Fear overcame me. I dared no advance, dreading 1,000 nameless evils that made me tremble, although I was unable to define them. Okay, while Frankenstein pauses there, we're going to take a brief pause to greet Scar, who has just rejoined the game. And we're going to thank Bape Heed. Thank you, Bape, for tipping 1. That is going to get us now to our next face camera expansion. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's going to get us 19 away from our next expansion. Yeah, because we were 20 away. And 0 plus 1 is not equal to 20. It's equal to 1. I'm going to take a quick second and grab a sports drink from the other room. But I will be right back. We can't do music because of the VOD. Luckily, I staged this earlier when I thought I was going to need it for something else. And so I left it nearby, but not at my desk, because I didn't think I would need it at my desk, but I do. My throat is getting a little scratchy here. Woo! Athletic time! But yeah, while we are at it, we are now 19 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills. And it's pronounced Bapahead. I've Bapaheed. I'm sorry. This is not a. These are not words. I don't think, even though these are using English language characters, I don't have the pronunciation key. I'm not sure what language your name comes from, and so it's hard for me to guess. Yeah, I'm not trying to make fun of you. I literally just... Bape. Ba-ape. Ba-ape head. Ba-ape head. Okay. Ba-ape head. Got it. Hopefully. Generic sports drink chugging. There we go. And we got another 10 rolling in. Let's see who that's from. It's from Daniel, who says Frankentip. Thank you very much, Daniel. That is going to get us now $9 away from the next Face Game expansion milestone. Okay. Okay. Here we go. We are still in the middle of Chapter 6, so I don't have to update the thing. We do need to kill the spiders, and I do need to sneeze real quick. Let me duck out of camera. Okay. I might need to swap out this folding chair with one of the other folding chairs. Or someday buy a real chair. Okay. That's not anytime soon. But yeah, we have enough folding chairs to hold me over. But yeah, this one is definitely about to give out. I don't know what happened, and maybe I can repair it, but without looking at it, I can tell that every time I shift my weight to the right, it feels like the front right leg is about to give out. But the other folding chairs are in my kids' room, and it's too late in the night for me to go in there and be like, hey, can I use the folding chair that you use for guitar practice? No, oh, that I don't want, no, because that'll get caught on the... I need a folding chair because of the layout of the foot pedals and everything on the floor here. That is not a folding chair. No, it's fine. I'll get it tomorrow. It's fine. No, I need the specific height that the folding chairs and where the legs are. I know we have many chairs here, but it's fine. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, we were reading Frankenstein. Let's get back to that. Oh yeah, because Victor Frankenstein paused. Here's another name I'm going to get wrong. I remained 2 days at Lausanne in this painful state of mind. I contemplated the lake. The waters were placid. All around was calm. And the snowy mountains, the palaces of nature, were not changed. By degrees, the calm and heavenly scene restored me, and I continued my journey toward Geneva. The road ran by the side of the lake, which became narrower as I approached my native town. I discovered more distinctly the black sides of Jura and the bright summit of Mont Blanc. I wept like a child. Dear mountains, my own beautiful lake, how do you welcome your wanderer? Your summits are clear. The sky and lake are blue and placid. Is this to prognosticate peace, or to mock at my unhappiness? I fear, dear friend, that I shall render myself tedious by dwelling on these preliminary circumstances, but they were days of comparative happiness, and I think of them with pleasure. My country, my beloved country, who but a native can tell the delight I took in again beholding thy streams, thy mountains, and more than all thy lovely lake. Yet, as I drew nearer home, grief and fear again overcame me. Night also closed around, and when I could hardly see the dark mountains, I felt still more gloomily. The picture appeared a vast and dim scene of evil, and I foresaw obscurely that I was destined to become the most wretched of human beings. Alas, I prophesied truly, and failed in only one single circumstance, that in all the misery I imagined and dreaded, I did not conceive the 100th part of the anguish I was destined to endure. It was completely dark when I arrived in the environs of Geneva. The gates of the town were already shut, and I was obliged to pass the night at Secheron, a village at the distance of half a league from the city. The sky was serene. As I was unable to rest, I resolved to visit the spot where my poor William had been murdered. As I could not pass through the town, I was obliged to cross the lake in a boat to arrive at Plain Palais. During this short voyage, I saw the lightning playing on the summit of Mont Blanc in the most beautiful figures. The storm appeared to approach rapidly, and on landing, I ascended a low hill that I might observe its progress. It advanced. The heavens were clouded, and I soon felt the rain coming slowly in large drops, but its violence quickly increased. I quitted my seat and walked on, although the darkness and storm increased every minute, and the thunder burst with a terrific crash over my head. It was echoed from Salive, the Jura, and the Alps of Savoy. Vivid flashes of lightning dazzled my eyes, illuminating the lake, making it appear like a vast sheet of fire. Then, for an instant, everything seemed of a pitchy darkness, until the eye recovered itself from the preceding flash. The storm, as is often the case in Switzerland, appeared at once in various parts of the heavens. The most violent storm hung exactly north of the town, over the part of the lake which lies between the promontory of Bellerive and the village of Coppet. Another storm enlightened Jura with faint flashes, and another darkened and sometimes disclosed the Molay, a peaked mountain to the east of the lake. While I watched the tempest, so beautiful yet terrific, I wandered on with a hasty step. This noble war in the sky elevated my spirits. I clasped my hands and exclaimed aloud, "William, dear angel, this is thy funeral, thy dirge." As I said these words, I perceived in the gloom a figure which stole from behind a clump of trees near me. I stood fixed, gazing intently. I could not be mistaken. A flash of lightning illuminated the object and discovered its shape plainly to me. Its gigantic stature and the deformity of its aspect, more hideous than belongs to humanity, instantly informed me that it was the wretch, the filthy demon to whom I had given life. What did he there? Could he be, I shuddered at the conception, the murderer of my brother? No sooner did that idea cross my imagination than I became convinced of its truth. My teeth chattered, and I was forced to lean against a tree for support. The figure passed me quickly, and I lost it in the gloom. Nothing in human shape could have destroyed the fair child. He was the murderer. I could not doubt it. The mere presence of the idea was an irresistible proof of fact. I thought of pursuing the devil, but it would have been in vain. For another flash discovered him to me, hanging among the rocks of the nearly perpendicular ascent of Mount Salive, a hill that bounds Panoply to the south. He soon reached its summit and disappeared. I remained motionless. The thunder ceased, but the rain still continued, and the scene was enveloped in an impenetrable darkness. I resolved in my mind the events which I had until now sought to forget, the whole train of my progress toward the creation, the appearance of the works of my own hands at my bedside, its departure. 2 years had now nearly elapsed since the night on which he first received life. And was this his first crime? Alas, I had turned loose into the world a depraved wretch, whose delight was in carnage and misery. Had he not murdered my brother? No one can conceive the anguish I suffered during the remainder of the night, which I spent, cold and wet, in the open air. But I did not feel the inconvenience of the weather. My imagination was busy in scenes of evil and despair. I considered the being whom I had cast among mankind and endowed with the will and power to effect purposes of horror, such as the deed which he had now done, nearly in the light of my own vampire, my own spirit let loose from the grave, and forced to destroy all that was dear to me. Day dawned, and I directed my steps toward the town. The gates were open, and I hastened to my father's house. My first thought was to discover what I knew of the murderer, and to cause instant pursuit to be made. But I paused when I reflected on the story that I had to tell. A being whom I myself had formed and endued with life had met me at midnight among the precipices of an inaccessible mountain. I remembered also the nervous fever with which I had been seized just at the time that I dated my creation, and which would give an air of delirium to a tale so otherwise utterly improbable. I well knew that if any other had communicated such a relation to me, I should have looked upon it as the ravings of insanity. Besides, the strange nature of the animal would elude all pursuit, even if I were so far credited as to persuade my relatives to commence it. And then, of what use would be pursuit? Who could arrest a creature capable of scaling the overhanging sides of Mount Salive? These reflections determined me, and I resolved to remain silent. Okay, we're going to take a quick second here to comment a little bit on what just happened in the story. He's just seen the monster scale an unscalable cliff face into an overhang. You know, one thing that you never see in Frankenstein interpretations is the monster hanging out doing rock climbing exercises. And I gotta say, when I was in college, the people who were in rock climbing club were constantly doing rock climbing exercises. Everything, no matter what they were doing, they would be like, oh, here's a door frame. Let me just go hang from this door frame for a minute. Oh, hey, let me use this. Well, I borrowed this from a guy who plays guitar. It lets me work on my finger strength, right? You never see Frankenstein just like hanging from a door frame with his legs up because, you know, he's too tall. He can't hang from a door frame. In any modern interpretation of Frankenstein, that's clearly missing. So just a quick side note. Also a reminder that we are still $9 away from the next Phase Gamer expansion milestone. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Quick update on this. We are almost to a second shulker filled, so that's good. If you guys have any other questions or thoughts about the chapter as we go, we are getting to the end, and usually we review those at the end of the chapter, so be thinking about stuff like that you'd like to share. Excuse me. Okay. So let's go ahead and continue. It was about 5 in the morning when I entered my father's house. I told the servants not to disturb the family and went into the library to attend their usual hour of rising. 6 years had elapsed, passed in a dream, but for one indelible trace. And as I stood in the same place where I had last embraced my father before my departure for Ingolstadt, beloved and venerable parent, he still remained to me. I gazed on the picture of my mother, which stood over the mantelpiece. It was an historical subject, painted at my father's desire, and represented Carolyn Beaufort in an agony of despair, kneeling by the coffin of her dead father. Her garb was rustic, and her cheek pale. Below this picture was a miniature of William, and my tears flowed when I looked upon it. While I was thus engaged, Ernest entered. He had heard me arrive, and hastened to welcome me. "Welcome, my dearest Victor. Ah, I wish you had come 3 months ago, and then you would have found us all joyous and delighted. You come to us now to share a misery which nothing can alleviate. Yet your presence will, I hope, revive our father, who seems sinking under his misfortune, and your persuasions will induce poor Elizabeth to cease her vain and tormenting self-accusations. Oh, poor William, he was a darling in our pride." Tears unrestrained fell from my brother's eyes. A sense of mortal agony crept over my frame. Before, I had only imagined the wretchedness of my desolated home. The reality came on me as a new and not less terrible disaster. I tried to calm Ernest. I inquired more minutely concerning my father, and I named my cousin. "She most of all requires consolation. She accused herself of having caused the death of my brother, and that made her very wretched, but since the murderer has been discovered—" "The murderer discovered? Good God, how can that be? Who could attempt to pursue him? It is impossible. One might as well try to overtake the winds or confine a mountain stream with a straw. I saw him too. He was free last night." "I do not know what you mean," replied my brother in accents of wonder. "But to us the discovery we have made completes our misery. No one would believe it at first, but now even Elizabeth will not be convinced, notwithstanding all the evidence. Indeed, who would credit that Justine Moritz, who was so amiable and fond of all the family, could have so suddenly become capable of so frightful, so appalling a crime?" "Justine Moritz? Poor girl. Is she the accused? But it is wrongfully. Everyone knows that. No one believes it, surely, Ernest?" "No one did at first, but several circumstances came out that have almost forced convictions upon us, and our own behavior has been so confused as to add to the evidence of facts a weight that I fear leaves no hope for doubt. But she will be tried today, and you will hear then all." He then related that the morning on which the murder of poor William had been discovered. Justine had been taken ill and confined to her bed for several days. During this interval, one of the servants, happening to examine the apparel she had worn on the night of the murder, had discovered in her pocket the picture of her mother, which had been judged to be the temptation of the murderer. That servant instantly showed it to one of the others, without saying a word to any of my family, went to a magistrate, and upon her deposition, Justine was apprehended. On being charged with the fact, the poor girl confirmed the suspicion in great measure by her extreme confusion of manner. This was a strange tale, but it did not shake my faith, and I replied earnestly, "You are all mistaken. I know the murderer. Justine, poor Justine, good Justine, is innocent." At that instant, my father entered. I saw unhappiness deeply impressed on his countenance, but he endeavored to welcome me cheerfully, and after we had exchanged our mournful greeting, would have introduced some other topic than that of our disaster, had not Ernest exclaimed, "Good God, Papa! Victor says he knows who was the murderer of poor William."
We do also, unfortunately. For indeed I had rather have been forever ignorant than have discovered so much depravity and ungratitude in one I valued so highly.
My dear father, you are mistaken. Justine is innocent.
If she is, God forbid that she should suffer as guilty. She is to be tried today, and I sincerely hope, that she will be acquitted.
This speech calmed me. I was firmly convinced in my own mind that Justine, and indeed every human being, was guiltless of this murder. I had no fear, therefore, that any circumstantial evidence could be brought forward strong enough to convict her. My tale was not to announce publicly. Its astounding horror would be looked upon as madness by the vulgar. Did anyone indeed exist except I, the Creator, who would believe, unless his senses convinced him, in the existence of the living monument of presumption and rash ignorance which I had let loose upon the world? We were soon joined by Elizabeth. Time had altered her since I last beheld her. It had endowed her with loveliness, surpassing the beauty of her childish years. There was the same candor, the same vivacity, but it was allied to an expression more full of sensibility and intellect. She welcomed me with the greatest affection. "Your arrival, my dear cousin, fills me with hope. You perhaps will find some means to justify my poor guiltless Justine, alas, who is safe, if she be convicted of crime. I rely on her innocence as certainly as I do upon my own. Our misfortune is doubly hard to us. We have not only lost that lovely darling boy, but this poor girl, whom I sincerely love, is to be torn away by an even worse fate. If she is condemned, I shall never know love. I shall never know joy. But she will not. I am sure she will not. And then I shall be happy again, even after the sad death of my little William." She is innocent, my Elizabeth, and that will be proved. Fear nothing, but let your spirits be cheered by the assurance of her acquittal. "How kind and generous you are. Everyone else believes in her guilt, and that made me wretched, for I knew that it was impossible to see everyone else prejudiced in so deadly a manner. Rendered me hopeless and despairing." She wept.
Dearest niece, dry your tears. If she is as you believe, innocent. Rely on the justice of our laws, and the activity with which I shall prevent the slightest shadow of partiality.
And that concludes Chapter 7 of Frankenstein, The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. So, y'all have any thoughts, any concerns, any questions? I'm looking at Chapter 8 here, which has the trial in it, and that's going to be too long to fit in tonight. Centauratron says about the climbing thing that that's definitely not a part of the Frankenstein story, which they had been familiar with prior. Well, see, that's why we do these readings, to really enjoy the whole book, not just the parts that make it into the movies and the Pinky and the Brain episodes. There's more to literature than the Animaniacs shared with you. You know, they hinted at a lot of great stuff, but there's even more. Kai Ferem says, the commissioned painting of Caroline crying over her father's coffin hangs rent-free in my brain. Ugh. I weep when I think about it, too. Okay, so we have filled 2 entire shulkers out of the 6 we need in about 90 minutes. So that's about 45 minutes per shulker. Once again, we don't need all 6 today. These 2 should be more than enough for the glass that we've already placed. So, let's see. Also, let's just, as a reminder, post the tipping link. We are currently $9 away from the next face camera expansion milestone. If you enjoy these sorts of reading streams, tips are welcome via paypal.me/JoeHills and YouTube Super Chat. Crystal, he says he talks a lot about how his misery is destined. Well, I mean, keep in mind, he's telling the story not as it's happening, but to Robert Walton on the ship after he was fished out of or off of an iceberg, right? Like, he might be justifying after the fact. He might be, he's justifying some of this stuff to himself, I think, in the retelling of the story. He's narrativizing it. Is that a word? Narrativizing? Kai Ferem says, Victor, my family was happy and normal until the misfortunes. Also, Victor, yes, the painting my dad commissioned of my mom crying on my grandpa's coffin. Yeah, no, that's a solid point. Like, his family was brought together by misfortune, and they did their best to make the most of it. And I think that one of the things that we're going to see here is that Victor does not try to make the most of misfortunes, right? You know, his mom's dad had that big financial problem, and that led to his health problems, that then led to his death. But, you know, his mom and dad tried to make the most of everything. But I just, like, meanwhile, Victor's over here. He's like, yeah, I accidentally created a monster. Kai Ferem says, he doesn't make the most of his misfortune, but he sure does make his own misfortune. I think if I was gonna just give you a note on that, Kai Ferem, I would say, Victor Frankenstein doesn't make the most of his misfortune. He makes the most misfortune. You got to use the word most twice there. So, okay. Welcome, I'm the Real Boy. Glad you could join us. It's the artist formerly known as Pinocchio in the YouTube chat. So, yeah. Next chapter is chapter 8, which we are not going to have time to read tonight. So if you guys are watching this in the VOD, you can just skip to the next episode if you're only interested in the reading. Chapter 8 is going to be about the trial. In terms of scheduling, I am going to be at my sister's graduation next Saturday. I'm going to be traveling and busy all day, so there won't be any Saturday stream for me to read Frankenstein. One thing I've been noodling on this time is rather than going 2 weeks without a reading stream, if I have to miss a Saturday, like last time I couldn't do Saturday night, I did Saturday morning. This time I can't do Saturday at all because of the travel schedule, but maybe I push it to another night or I do it slightly earlier. I'm going to have to look at my schedule when I talk to my project manager on Monday and figure out what makes sense there. What do you guys think as people who watch the reading streams? If I were to move this one up to like a Thursday night or something, or a lot of the regulars wouldn't be able to watch it, but the regular Saturday night crowd wouldn't be able to watch it, but you could always save the VOD to watch on Saturday night while I'm gone. Thank you, I'm the real boy. That's kind of you to say. I feel like we're not generating a lot of spiders right now. Maybe Scar is hanging out at a spider spawner somewhere, preventing... Or are they just all backed up inside of... well, see, I can't see anything inside of there. Is there like a blockage? Yeah, I think there's a blockage is the problem. Is this a double spawner or a triple spawner? Maybe it's only a double spawner. Yeah, there's definitely a huge blockage right there. Which, hold on. Tool and gearbox. Okay. That was not helpful. Hold on, we can do this. I'm not getting a good idea of, like... I can't tell if that's working. Well, there's a lot of experience. Did that fix our clog? No. Ah, that was the wrong button. Whoops. I need like something I can stand on that's like down here. really feel like I'm not hitting enough of... Well, I must be hitting some of them. If we removed that trapdoor, could they get out? Could they come through if that trapdoor was gone? Yeah, they probably could. Dang it. I feel like those are deflecting somehow in a weird way. I'm not entirely happy with. Okay, well... Here's a question then. What if... Can I harm them through the wall with the fireworks? Apparently I can pick up experience through the wall. Yeah, they're all getting stuck. In that one spot there. Wow, there's got to be... There's a lot of them. Now the thing is, anything I could imagine to shoot them through, they'd be able to somehow sneak past me with. Like, how... You can't really cut a hole in the wall that they can't get you through. Because they're so small. It's not like dealing with block... or like, mobs in another normal farm. So we need to be extra thoughtful here. That's going in our offhand, for one thing. Fireworks. Ooh, splash potions. These are poison. I don't think you can poison spiders. If I want it cleared, I could leave. Yeah, I don't want to just clear it. I want to get them. I want to get their string. There's like probably 60, 70 spiders back there. If I dig from the top of the chamber, they will climb out because they're spiders. Let's think this through. Music box might have some wood in it. No. Can you make end stone slabs? Okay. But then we also need like an iron trap door. This is going to be a whole thing. TNT and water, maybe. We are right alongside the wall to that. Yeah. See, now that guy's trying to track toward me. Okay, so we want to go all the way up and around, or yeah, we were trying to get to above there. So, okay, let's think this through then. Lights and illumination. Also, beautifully obnoxious fireworks. Okay. Do I have an armor stand that I could use sweeping edge on? That's a good idea. Okay. Right now, we are pretty close to directly underneath them. We are... Hold on. Does this have sweeping edge? Does it have to be at the same Y level as them, though? Yeah, I think we need to go up. Okay, so that's still directly underneath there. Okay. Okay, we're really close now. Okay, they're like practically right on the other side of the wall there. Is that one block thick? We might be too low. We're directly on the other side of the wall now. We need to turn on mob sounds. Okay. New plan. Okay, that might be good enough there. Okay, there's like 3 or 4 left now, but it was like hundreds before, I think. Okay, so core concept, let's go back down and grab all the stuff. And there's also probably a bunch of them down here that are going to start dying of... Okay, that one there is like... Boy, I really need to get these fireworks dialed in. Okay, so music and sounds, hostile creatures back to off. Okay, that did get us, like, a whole bunch. We actually did add a lot of stacks of string in that attempt. So yeah, just leaving and coming back would not have been a great strategy there to actually achieve our important goals of, you know, gathering spider eyes. And string. Yay. Okay. Let's temporarily put that there. Okay. So we are up to... Hey, that's 2.5. 2.5 shulkers in about 2 hours. And let's see, we have been streaming for almost 2 hours. So yeah, let's do last call for tips. If anybody here enjoyed this spider farm troubleshooting and or Frankenstein reading, it's going to take me a minute to clean all this up. Oh, actually, yeah, speaking of cleaning this up, let's actually clean this up. Let's put these back in here. Oh, actually, speaking of cleaning things up, let's put these back in here. And stone can go back in the music box. All of that. The string is for blocking snow spirito. Good eye. Yeah, I'm realizing we should probably go shopping for more fireworks boxes too, because we are woefully low on those. Oh boy, I just can't buy enough. 3 more stacks should hold us over though, hopefully. And I forgot to put that back in there, and I forgot to put that back in there. Interesting. Can I empty something from the bundle into my offhand? Ah, yeah, I can. Okay. Just sorting out how to do that now. 1, 2. Okay. So. Dang it. Let's go ahead and we're going to toss this back here and grab these and head out. Is it time to lay our heads down and dream? No. That's fine. Let's get our trident back out here, and we're going to go shopping, and then we're going to wrap up the stream. Whoops. Trying to preserve those. It's fine. We're fine. Frame rate. I gotta figure out what Mumbo did to fix his frame rate over here, because it's been haunting me too. Okay, light gray fireworks are not exactly the most exciting. Light blue is a little bit better, but it's not super visible against the sky. We've bought out almost all the Flight 3 fireworks. Okay. We probably haven't had a lot of sales at Tough. Let's just check just in case. Oh, we are sold out of Tough. Okay, so that is how many more diamonds? 32. So we need to write that in our box, in our book. $294 plus 32 is $226. Done. No wonder we're always out of fireworks too. Gotta get them off my offhand. Dang it. And we sold out another 13, which I didn't even catch. So 239 diamonds and Tough. Okay. Boy, I really wish I could get the frame rate stuff fixed over here. Okay. Mumbo has a lot of strength from his pigling bartering farm. We could strike a deal for it. Yeah, that's the thing, is we need enough to get us going today and tomorrow, because Impulse and Mumbo aren't necessarily guaranteed to be online in time for me to do the work. I wanted to work on the skylights tomorrow and not wait until next week. Since I'm going to be traveling at the end of next week, I want to get stuff done early in the week. And that's the current plan. Let's take down the setting up now sign. And then we're going to do a hard refresh to see if we missed any other tips that we need to thank people. Whoops. Come on. Great job. Great flying. Okay. So we're going back this way. And we are checking our hard refresh here. Okay, looks like we are all set. We are all up to date with thanking people. So now all that's left is to wrap up the stream. Bum, 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 bum. Huh. That's interesting. I didn't know there was. I must have known that this existed, but I've never. Have I rated these guys before? I don't think I have. Well, that's an empty pinball table with nobody on camera. So we're probably not gonna get them. Let's go back to categories, pinball. Bum, 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 bum. Is this the new... What is this? Is this the new King Kong game? No. Oh, this is Iron Maiden. Oh, hey. Yeah, let's go ahead. It looks like Minnesota Pinball is playing Iron Maiden. So we're going to / raid. Oh, no. It's snowing where we're going. We got to get away before... We got to not load those chunks while it's snowing until we get our string down. I was kind of on autopilot there. When you get over there, our raid message is, howdy y'all, Joe Hills raid here. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.